They call me Squirrel.
What's going on, Squirrel Squad, over here on Hey Look Squirrel? It's time to take a video that I recently did, which I think did not very good. Now I'm realizing this might not be a good idea. Screw it, I'm doing it anyway. And I'm going to do the opposite side of it. So it was European behaviors considered rude in other countries, and now this is going to be American behaviors considered rude in other countries. I'm really curious to see what this is, since well, I'm an American. So that's why I thought that I would do this. I thought it'd be interesting to see me watch this and see if I believe that these are real and see my reaction to what others might think of them. So this is also from the same folks that did the first video, which I believe is the infographic show. Make sure you check out their page. They're pretty amazing. They got a great page, huge following. So let's break into this. We're starting out right away with a guy with a big fat beer belly with a beer sitting on it, American flag on the wall, fishing pole. It's pretty much stereotypical. Yep, this is it. Let's get into it. I move myself back where I belong. Get over there. What are you doing up there, squirrel? It must be for that Australian video I recorded earlier. Here we go. Let's do it. It's time. I hope you're ready, because I think I am.
The big, brash, rude American. An unfair stereotype made up by non-Americans harboring enmity towards a hegemonic culture that has bled into almost every crevice of the world? Or an unassailable truth that Americans should take counsel for? The concept of the rude American has been around a while. Mark Twain wrote about the phenomenon of the loud, gauche American upsetting the locals on his travels, while a novel and later a movie starring Marlon Brando was called The Ugly American. If you are American and watching this, you might take some solace in the fact that the Chinese are making the headlines these days as the world's most badly behaved tourists. The question is, are the Yanks really that bad? That's what we intend to find out. In this episode of the infographic show, American behavior is considered rude around the world.
I just want to say, before we get too deep into this, I am well aware that half the people in this country are jerk-offs.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. If there is
Seriously, there's a lot of idiots over here.
one thing Americans, fairly or unfairly, are accused of, it's being too loud. This has been an accusation going around for some time. Is it actually true? Well, a lot of opinion articles out there seem to think so. There is no scientific evidence, however. A story published by the Huffington Post once blamed this loudness on the fact that awareness of how personal actions impact others seems to be a weak point for Americans in general. The loud Chinese tourist groups are said to be partly a result of personal space or lack thereof. But Americans have space, for the most part. Some people take American loudness seriously too. One cafe in Ireland made the headlines in 2014 because of a sign in its window, "No bus/coach or loud Americans."
Wow. Oh, that was loud. Sorry. First of all, the Huffington Post is it's a very one-way street with that publication. I don't know. Nothing really great comes out of that thing. But either way, I think the loud thing comes from that we're not very polite to other people. And I'm telling you what I think. I think we're pretty rude. You know, when I see a lot of these videos I watch, I see tradition, I see politeness, I see people treating them nice. I know that it's not like that everywhere in any country. But I just think that it happens more often in the UK than it does over here. So many people don't care about each other over here. It's so nice to do nice things for other people. It's nice to see people do nice things for other people, but I just feel like everyone's got their head up their ass and everyone's entitled and everyone thinks the world owes them something. That's how I feel many of my fellow Americans are. And that being said, nobody's going to wait for you to be quiet or stop what you're saying. They're just going to talk over you, unfortunately. I think that's where it comes from.
Thank you. This sparked outrage in America, but we might ask if all these quiet objectors have a point. American writer and social critic Hunter S. Thompson may have put the alleged loudness down to privilege, pride, and too much belief in personal power. But in America, perhaps making yourself heard is a-okay. Unfortunately for loud folks, in some cultures it isn't. What many tourists traveling in the USA don't realize is that tipping in some situations is not just an act of kindness, but due to low wages, the tips are actually expected. Not tipping in some situations would be plain rudeness. It can also work the other way in other countries. Tipping can be insulting in some cultures, just as walking up to someone in the street and handing them $1 because you thought their shoes were tatty would be insulting. If Americans plan on going to Japan, for instance, they shouldn't tip. Rather, they should just be polite and not too loud. In a Japanese restaurant, or using a taxi service, if you try to tip, you'll likely get the money back. Good service is something you deserve in Japan, and handing over money might be perceived as charity. Much of Asia, China, Hong Kong, South Korea, is similar, but the same goes for parts of Europe. In the UK, it might be okay to tip in a high-end restaurant, but throw an extra quid at the barman in a traditional pub, and you'll likely create an awkward moment.
I feel like this guy's going off on a total tangent with this. Maybe I'm wrong.
Americans are often complimented for their being forthright and outspoken. This has also been called obnoxious. It just depends where you are. In much of Europe, especially restaurants in France and the UK, sending food back is quite extreme. The customer is always right adage doesn't work so well in Europe, a continent where, according to The Guardian, Americans have been dispatched from posh restaurants for asking for ketchup or salt with their hot cuisine. Surveys have revealed that 38% of British people would never complain regardless of the state the food was in. In Asia, a continent where loss of face is taken with the utmost seriousness, Americans should be aware that if they do complain, it should be done in a way that doesn't cause harm. You could try and say, "Hi, the food is absolutely delicious, but do you think you could put it under the grill for another 10 minutes?" In 2016, online review community Trustpilot did indeed report that Americans are prone to grumbling, stating that a survey it conducted confirms the American propensity to complain.
Well, so I'm going to question this one just because he just got done saying that Europeans wouldn't complain, and the Asians would do, would be nice about it, and then just say, "Could you put it back on the grill?" At the end of the day, my opinion, this is just me, and I feel like this is how everybody should feel. I work really, really hard for the little bit of money that I have. I don't have money to just be throwing around everywhere. I work my ass off. So if I'm going to go out somewhere, when I expect to get the food that I ordered cooked properly, and I expect good service, and I'm going to take good care of that server who gives me good service. This 15% tip thing, I'm 20 to 25 all the time. I got to be, because I got to take care of these servers, because as we know, because every video reminds us, tips people will get a lower wage in America. And it's true. It's true. It's definitely true, because tipping is customary here. Everybody does it. So it is, because otherwise, if you got paid the same amount as the chef, nobody would want to cook the fucking food. Pardon my French. So that's not really French. Why does everybody say that? Why do I say that? But nobody want to cook the food because they're making $15 an hour, and you're making $15 an hour plus tips. So that's the balance, I would suppose. But either way, if I order, a good example, like 2 months ago, I went out to dinner with a colleague of mine, and he and I were at this restaurant, and I ordered baked fish, and it was like baked fish stuffed with scallops and shrimp. It wasn't like a stuffing; it just had scallops and shrimp in it. And when I cut it open, the scallops, the shrimp, and the inside of the fish were raw. It didn't, the outside looked like it was baked good, but I cut it in half. I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do? You know? So I'm like, oh wow. Okay. So the waitress comes over. I'm sorry, but this is not cooked all the way. Could you please, ask to, get this cooked better? And she was like, oh yeah, absolutely. So she leaves. So and she brought back the food, and it was cooked well and everything. So in an instance like that, I don't see the problem with complaining. Now again, I wasn't mean about it or whatever, and I guess that's what this person's talking about. But like, no matter what it is, if I order a burger and I order it rare and it's overcooked, I'm not just gonna suck it up. I'm gonna be like, hey, I don't order my burgers rare, but if I did, I'd be like, hey, this is not how I asked for this to be cooked. If they ask you how do you want it cooked, and you're paying a good price for something, why shouldn't you get what you want? I'm not saying anybody has to be outright mean, but I also don't have to worry about coddling people and, you know, playing up to their feelings just to get my shit cooked right either. I don't think so. I guess I'm kind of in the middle on this. Right now, half the people are like, man, I love it when this guy just goes off and doesn't shut the fuck up. Maybe not half, like one person's thinking that, and everybody else is like, Squirrel, shut up. So I'm gonna shut up.
To matters of a more sartorial nature. There's a meme making the rounds in which tech billionaires Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg are complimented for their rather informal and unshowy dress code. Americans like to don a pair of flip-flops and a t-shirt now and again, but do this on a date, in a government office, or at a house party in some countries, and it could be perceived as you insulting the person or people you are meeting with. In parts of the developing world, if you have the money, you are expected to wear the money, as some people can't be that fortunate. Never dress down when you have an appointment in Asia, and for women, remember that showing too much skin could be conceived as impolite.
We shouldn't dress down here if we have important appointments either. No. So it's these lazy slobs that are making us look bad. Bill Gates out there kicking around a pair of sweatpants or whatever, and God bless him, he's got more money than I'll ever see in my life, let alone have. But no, we should be, if it's an important thing, we should be dressing nice too. That's another problem. Again, entitlement is killing this country. Everyone's entitled to. I can wear pajamas to work if I want to nowadays. Like, it's unbelievable. And the younger the people are, the more entitled they seem to be. I don't understand what happened. But that's really a big chunk of this country nowadays. It's really too bad. But yeah, I mean, I understand casual day at work, but again, I'm honing in on that important meeting thing. You were saying, like, in certain countries, if you had an important meeting, if you have an important meeting here too, like, I don't know. I think if you got to know Bill Gates after the third or fourth time, then he might just say, hey, let's just make a casual meetup, whatever. But initially, if I had to go meet Bill Gates tomorrow for business, I'm thinking Bill's going to be wearing a suit and looking nice. I just kind of, I don't know. I don't think all Americans dress like slobs all the time, but a lot of them kind of do. I mean, you know, I'm not even wearing pants right now.
In Thailand, for instance, while a backpacker won't get thrown out of a government office for wearing shorts and a tank top, that person's breach of Thai propriety will result in them probably just having a harder time than other tourists in that office. If you don't care, they won't. In 2013, the world's richest man, Bill Gates, was mired in controversy after he apparently disrespected South Korean President Park Geun-hye by shaking her hand with his other hand in his pocket. We already know Gates is not one to stand on ceremony, but his lackadaisical greeting was seen as brazen to the Korean press. Cultural difference or an act of disrespect?
Definitely a cultural difference. If I have my left hand in my pocket, I shake with our right. I'll walk up and shake someone's hand. You watch business people, watch clips from movies, watch business people on the news. That's so typical. Obviously, it's a cultural thing, and that's fine. If that's the culture, I can understand them being upset. But I don't know if you can learn everything before you go somewhere. But I don't know. That's an interesting one. That's really very interesting.
Asked one newspaper, and Koreans took to social media to mount a show of dismay. Even considering the cultural difference, there is an appropriate manner for certain occasions, wrote one commenter, but to most Americans, such an act was not an act of disrespect, but just being friendly or laid back. Americans value freedom and individualism, while some other cultures value hierarchy, status, and conformity. Speak up, be who you want, says the American, while there's a saying in Japan that says, hammer the nail that sticks out. When in Rome, do as the Romans do is probably a lot more relevant to strict Asian cultures than it is to laid-back Western cultures.
There definitely is a big be yourself and do what you want. You lead your own path. And that's definitely something that happens over here for sure. And that's definitely something we teach everybody. Unfortunately, some people take it to the extreme and they're like, okay, well, now I'm a cat and you have to act like I'm a cat and pretend like I'm a cat. Okay, listen, I meant, like, go get the career that you want and be your own person. Cat's not a person. You can't be a cat. I mean, you can try, but I'm not taking you serious.
Turning up late for an informal appointment might seem like poor form in the USA, and also in Northern Europe, but in other countries you are actually not expected to be right on time. In Spain, for instance, being on time is not seen as such a big deal at all, and certainly something you shouldn't balk at. Being fussy about punctuality might be construed as being difficult offhand. In Thailand, they have what's called Thai time, which means being late for a date or dinner appointment is just accepted as the norm. According to one article, in Argentina, if you turn up on time for a dinner party at someone's house, it'll be seen as you being rather pushy. The article compares it to being an hour early for dinner in America. Moroccans are equally laid back about time. According to some people, they simply don't concern themselves with the matter of punctuality. It's similar in Mexico, India, Indonesia, Greece, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, and Russia, but turn up late in Japan or the UK and you'll nettle someone's ego for sure. Maybe the most amusing fact is that in Brazil, where punctuality isn't a big issue, when they want people to actually be punctual, they say things like 3 p.m. English time. Academics state that there are monochronic and polychronic cultures, those that value orderliness and sticking to plans, and those that take things as they come. Making out in public is probably the one faux pas Americans need to understand.
I saw this in the thumbnail. I think this picture here. Um, I I don't see this ever. Making out in public. Like, this in the other video, it said something about being affectionate or whatever, but like, I don't just like I I can't tell you the last time I saw someone making out with someone in public. I'm being honest. Like, I just don't know when that happened last. I don't know. Yeah, can't think of it.
Kissing, or even hugging, in public spaces in some countries is about as shocking to people as actually having sexual intercourse in public in the USA. The general rule to follow here is just don't be intimate or over tactile with your lover in public all over the Middle East. In Dubai, a city that might look modern, kissing in public could land you in jail. In Indonesia, a kissing session in the streets could result in a fine of $29,000. The same goes for most Muslim cultures, but also in non-Muslim parts of etiquette-heavy Asia, public displays of affection are generally outlawed in a non-legal sense.
So basically, anywhere where human rights just haven't caught up yet. Got it.
Holding hands might be acceptable, but anything that might provoke a get a room response in the USA would definitely be met with disdain. If
Is that bird shit on this guy? I'm hoping that's what that's supposed to be.
loud noise is merely irksome in some cultures, getting it on in public could be a serious offense both legally and in the context of propriety. Always be sure to read the cultural do's and don'ts before visiting any country. Follow this advice and you will certainly have a better experience traveling around the world. To be fair to Americans, we might also remember that they could also be the ones upset at having their own boundaries breached regarding behavior. This could happen when the Asian person doesn't think twice about asking Americans how much money they earn, or asking their age, or telling them that they've put on lots of weight and look fat. Okay for them, impolite to the American. Or what about when the Spanish dude turns up 1 hour late for dinner and the meal is ruined? Or when that Chinese girl you started dating got upset just because you showed her some warmth and affection? With this in mind, do you really think it's fair that Americans are called rude or ugly? Let us know in the comments. And if you like this video, be sure to check out our other video called What If the US Budget Was Only $100? Thanks for watching, and as always,
What if the U.S. budget was only $100? Oh Jesus! Listen, it was good. It's a good video. I mean, now I gotta go and ask my wife where she wants to go out in public so we can make out and fill each other up because apparently that's something we do. I don't even know what that's about. I don't know how does that. I mean, like I guess maybe that's what I guess when people go to other countries they get horny. So maybe that's it. Maybe they're over there and they're standing in front of Big Ben and they're like, oh man, I'm horny. Let's just make out and hug and kiss all over each other. Maybe that is what happens. I don't know. I've never been to another country except Canada. That doesn't count. Canada's like the next state up, whatever. But anyway, I just yeah, that one kind of threw me off. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how people act over there in other countries, in any country, because I just yeah. So I don't know. I don't know any different. Just to me as a layman here in America, it seemed a little off, a little weird, but whatever. Anyways, here's what I want to know. Do you feel that this is 100% accurate? Do you feel this is right? I mean, hey, if you do, that's fine. If maybe you've all experienced a lot of this. I don't know. But most of the people watching this channel are from other countries, so they're going to have a better perspective of how Americans act in other countries. I'm just talking about in general. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of dumb people in this country. There's a lot of opinionated, entitled assholes in this country. There's a lot of just people who everyone thinks their crap don't stink. So it's just the way it is. But I'd really wish there was a lot more kindness and understanding in this country, and there just isn't. So I can understand how a lot of this probably does play over, but had to give my 15 cents. All right, I gave you like $1.15, but that's fine. Maybe extra dollar's worth. Who cares? Who doesn't? I don't know. I'm gonna try to be quiet now. I don't want to be loud. Squirrel out.